It's my number 5, so I'll say something about it now.
Okay.
I'll say something about it as number 5. Here it is.
Yeah, nice.
No Way Home. It did make it into my top 5. I didn't think a movie after Endgame would do that. I really thought that it was over. So when this came out, this was a pleasant surprise. Theater experience was insanity. I mentioned some of the scenes earlier, like Andrew Garfield catching MJ is probably might be my favorite scene in the whole movie. It makes me feel emotional when I watch it. Like I feel like that wave from like my head to my feet when I see it. It's it may not be powerful for everybody, but it felt powerful for me at least.
It
Um,
definitely works.
I really appreciated it. It was
But
just like
that
he got
it's not Tom
his.
Holland. It's Andrew Garfield.
I know, but you're looking at it from a
I
stupid
don't mean to
lens.
interrupt you.
That lens is bad. You're looking at it poorly. You have to look at it from the lens of like he got the conclusion that he needed for his character. Like he needed that to see like that he could save the girl. You know what I mean? Because
I like that he got that.
in his mind he's going I can't because he hasn't had it and he saw it, he went for it and he did it successfully. You could even tell like fucking rewatch the scene after this. Look at his face. It's actually Andrew Garfield as an actor. I was blown away because in my head I always thought like he's the shittiest Spider-Man, he's not that good. This was fucking, you can see the nuances like in his face, like he's almost shocked that he did it. Like when he lands and he's holding her, it's not like the typical superhero that's like, yeah, I got you, obviously. He's like sitting there and he's like, I can't believe I got you. Like I did it. Thank God. You know what I mean? Like you never name another scene where a hero saves someone and acts in that exact manner because I don't remember it if it's happened. I think most of the time it's completely different from that energy. So I'm gonna talk
Raimi
about that scene a
trilogy.
lot because it's my favorite scene in the movie. Just besides Toby and Andrew showing up, that's obviously awesome. Um, I liked that. Actually, I didn't hate that Ned could do the ring shit. That didn't piss me off. I was actually okay with
Yeah,
that.
that's fine.
I
I don't
thought
mind.
maybe at first I was like, oh, maybe this will bother me, but it didn't. I was like, you know what? They didn't like really force it on you. It was kind of cool. They'd mentioned the magic in his family bullshit, whatever. Um, I think the movie's deserving of top 5. I
I hate
really
that
like
scene
it.
for
I
different
rewatched
reasons.
scenes from it, and I still really like it. So
I have two things really quick. I agree. I think Andrew Garfield is amazing in this movie in a way that kind of Toby isn't really.
agreed.
And Also, what the fuck was Doctor Strange thinking? Like this whole movie doesn't happen if Doctor Strange acts like how he usually would act in a movie. He's
He was
so
being weird.
stupid. Like so stupid. The decision, like, how do you let Peter
It was
Parker
a small.
threaten the whole fucking multiverse? It's like that's a very small nitpick, but
I agree, but let's just Scooby Doo this shit and go.
let's just Scooby Doo this shit.
I didn't mean to steal your host seat for a second there. Yeah, No Way Home's good. My number 5 is a movie post Endgame, not No Way Home. Can you guess what it is? Peter knows. Ant,
I
can
know
you
what
guess?
it is.
Have I seen
Ant,
it?
you haven't seen this movie. You have
I
not seen
haven't
this
seen
movie.
it.
You probably like this movie, Ant.
Oh,
You
Guardians of the
would
Galaxy
really
Volume
like it.
3.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I haven't seen it yet. I
Yes, sir.
actually really should have watched it before this because I really
You
like the
should
Guardian
have.
of the Galaxy characters. There's a chance it's actually in my top 10. I just need to watch it.
It's in my top
I could see
15.
it. I think it's an. Oh, I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that.
No, I
I
lied.
love this
It's
movie. I
16.
love
It's
James.
16. It's not in my top 15.
We're cooked. Uh, I love this movie. I love James Gunn's style. The music again is wonderful. I love how this moves into a new decade. It starts with my favorite band, Radiohead, so it already got me from minute one. It tells a really emotional story. It's such a great send off for all of these characters. I think if you like these characters, you'll love where it takes them. And this movie had me feeling so emotional about them because I really care about these characters going in. And this movie and the story it tells and what he puts the characters through makes me care about them even more. And by the end, I was in tears both times I saw it. It
All
really
right.
got me. I think some of the action is really fun, even though it is a little CGI. And I love just the wackiness of and how sci-fi all these Guardians movies are, but especially this one. Some of the planets they go to are so interesting. And it was just like a breath of fresh air, especially in this terrible Phase 4, Phase 5, because it was just focused on telling an emotional story and moving you, not focused on cameos, which I know Peter you said you go for, and that's kind of what I go for too. But in this case, I was like, okay, James Gunn is telling a story. It's a conclusion to a trilogy, and I want him to just focus on telling that and not focus on getting cameos, getting people to surprise. I just want him to move me and tell a gripping story, and that's what it got for me. So I'm a personal big fan of it. That's just my take though. I really like it.
Yeah, the stuff with Rocket's pretty cool, I guess. I fell asleep in the theater for a couple minutes at some point. By the time this movie came out, like it's just like I've fallen asleep through actually like several Marvel movies in Phase 4. Like definitely Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, a couple more. Like it's just like I'm out. Like at this point, I'm out. That's when by the time Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 came out, I just don't give a shit anymore. And like it's the only thing I go for is where's the lore, where are the cameos. Guardians of the Galaxy didn't have any. I like the characters. I guess it's a fine movie. I don't really for it very much. It's fine.
I can't say shit about it. I didn't fucking watch it, but it's one of the ones I should watch, and I need to. If I watch Thor: Love and Thunder, I gotta watch this movie because, and actually, speaking of Shang-Chi, even though it's not my top 10, it actually is one of the better movies in Phase 4. I liked it. I actually like his character. I think he'd be cool in combo movies. He's charming and he brings an energy that reminds me of older phases. So that's just how I feel about his character.
That movie's not bad. Speaking of Multiverse of Madness, that'd be my number 11. I think that movie is awesome. But we can move on from that.
Yeah, we can go to number 4. One of the best
I still have
movies.
my
No,
number
Peter
five.
hasn't given us 5.
Dude, I keep forgetting. All right, Pete. Yes,
Good.
go. Number 5.
You're good. My 5. Ant might think this is low. I think Jake's already said this movie. Oh shit.
Is it
Endgame?
Yeah, it's Endgame.
Yes, great
pick. Yeah, it's really good. I think this movie you guys were talking about on your podcast about how hype Whole Lotta Red and Eternal Take were, and like anticipation for those albums and how much they did or did not live up to it. Like those two albums, I think this movie lived up to basically the highest expectations for a movie in the history of movies when it comes to like the general public. I think this movie is a big evidence as to why the MCU is really just a big TV show more than it is kind of like, it's like the next episode everyone was excited for in a way, because there are better movies than this movie. But, I think the way this movie doesn't work for me is the way in which the villain is a version of Thanos who we're introduced to within this movie. Like, they kill off the Thanos from the Infinity War very early on, and then the Thanos who is the villain in this, although it's still Thanos, you don't have that same relationship with. At least I don't. What I mostly remember about this movie was like the extent to which the hype had built up. Like, Ant, you had seen Captain Marvel a couple months before. You caught up on all the MCU movies to watch this one. You saw it on the Thursday. Jake saw it before we did because the Thursday comes sooner in Australia. I was on crutches. I was rewatching all the movies for like the 11th time within 2 years with my dad. I think I deleted all social media on like the Tuesday of the week before because I just didn't want to see anything. It got to a point where like Jake was telling me about like people who were going to the red carpet premiere, and I was like, "Don't tell me that. That's a spoiler because if they're at the red carpet premiere, that means they're in the movie, and that's a spoiler." You know what I mean? And it was like so exciting. It got built up to such an extent, like almost more than any song or album or anything in the history of like this pop culture or whatever we're talking about. That like it fulfilled those expectations and ultimately really puts a very good end on both Captain America and Iron Man stories, which is all you can really ask of the movie, even if they don't do Thor as well and maybe some of the other characters. Those two endings are really satisfying. Like the ending with like the song and Cap's with his girl again. I think it's made me cry at least once. It's really, really effective. Like,
Yeah.
I have a different
I love
thought on that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, but I think part of what holds this movie back for me a little bit is that like I had gotten so deep into the Marvel lore that I was kind of expecting some of these things to happen. Like, unless they had shown me like John Krasinski's Fantastic, like Mr. Fantastic, or like they had brought in like fucking Doctor Doom. Like, I wanted something like so crazy, you know what I mean? And ultimately, just it's the characters we've seen before, and it concludes the story. And I I guess my question to you guys is: should the MCU have just ended to this movie? Because it really is as good of an ending as possible for what we know to be the movies we loved.
They should have taken a break. They shouldn't have ended it, but they should have taken a break.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it
And
should have ended
planned.
because there was still more good to come. You know, no way.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad we had
They
no
should
way
have made a
home.
plan.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah,
too. Me too.
somebody should have taken a breath and been like, "Hey guys, listen, we just did." You know, it's kind
We
of
don't
similar
need
to
to.
like
We don't need
if
to make another movie.
it's like if you run it's like if you run a 400-meter dash in a track meet and you come in first place and then you just line up and you're like, I'm going to run another one right now. You're going to just do worse because you just used all your energy on the
Yeah.
first. You need to take a second to rest. That's how I think of it.
And I think audiences needed that break too.
Yeah, we
That's
needed
what
a
I
second
mean.
to like digest.
And then COVID happens, and then it just becomes even worse.
Um,
Uh,
okay,
but yeah, I agree with everything you said, Peter.
number
You're number
4.
five. Fives.
We
Four.
did all
Four. My bad.
fives.
I'm
We're on
tripping.
4 now. Yeah, yeah. We did Peter's
Yeah,
fifth
yeah,
was
yeah,
one I almost skipped by accident.
yeah.
Number 4, sick movie.
And this is in
Doctor
my top 15.
like legit like there's something loose. If this isn't
It's
even a
at it's
good.
at
See,
13 for me.
yeah, see, Peter understands at
Is
least.
that
Not
13 for
like
you?
you're just
That's
hating.
way too high.
You're just hating. At that point, you're just
Dog,
hating.
it's a terrible movie.
It's not terrible at all. It's literally like they took the Iron Man story and just did it again. It's not as good, but it's still really good.
Exactly. Exactly my point. They took the Iron Man story and did it again.
They did it again, slightly worse.
That's
That's why it's
that's
not as high as Iron Man. It's slightly worse on my list than Iron Man.
So high though. Was it number 4 for you?
Yeah,
That's ridiculous. That's crazy. I mean,
because
I'm glad you
Winter
like it.
Soldier.
dude, I watched this movie and I just like fully fell in love with his character. Like Doctor Strange's character, I was like, wow, this is like
He is great.
the
He's so good.
he was the first MCU character like hero I'd seen in a while that like rivaled Iron Man for me in terms of how much I enjoyed him. Like him and Iron Man are my number 1 and 2 in or actually Spider-Man might be is probably ahead of Doctor Strange in my mind now. It might be like 1, 2, 3 like that, like Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. Although I like his movie better than any of the Spider-Man movies. Um, it was a 5-star movie. The second I watched it, it's still a 5-star movie now. I loved everything about it. I liked how he was this dick and he went through something and then he became, a better person. I like those arcs I enjoy. It doesn't matter if it's very similar to Iron Man because it still felt different. They basically took the story structure that I like, did it again with somebody new. That they could do a third time and I'd still think it's a great movie because I like that structure for movies. I think it makes good movies as long as you do it right. He still felt different enough from Iron Man. He felt like a different. I feel like they had two different types of ego to them. Um, I don't even know how to properly explain it, but they felt like different characters going through the same thing. Like they both needed it, you know?
I think they feel like different characters coming out the other end. But in the beginning and in the middle, they don't to me personally.
Yeah, I mean, this movie. The reason it's not in my like top 10. First of all, it's good. It's for me, it's derivative, so that definitely holds it back a little bit for me. I think it's a great origin story. I think it set up the Doctor Strange character that we see in the rest of the MCU very well. Is the villain great? No, but Benedict Cumberbatch is really good. There's some really cool visual sequences. It really like the whole portal thing. I mean, that becomes very important in the MCU. It is accomplished here well, and it looks good, and it sets up how it's going to appear. The whole rest. I mean, it just appeared in Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, I guess the reason I just don't care about this movie is because the second Doctor Strange failed so hard. I mean, it's it's probably gonna show up in Jake's list, and we'll get to it at some point.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
The second Doctor Strange isn't.
It's 11. but it's
Oh,
not
okay.
on my
Oh,
top
right,
10.
right. Okay, okay.
Wait,
Um,
wait. You like the second one more than the first?
Yeah,
Jake does. Yeah.
yeah. The
Why?
second one fucking rocks.
It is not as. It's a
Because
good.
it gives you John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and it's also a sick horror movie.
Not
It's
as good.
deeply
Not as good.
flawed.
It's not scary at all. It's not scary.
It's not a
It's low
horror
key
movie.
like the
It's
Battle
not
of
a horror
Mid.
movie.
It's low key like the Battle of Mid. I
Dude, you
know
could
it's not a
call it
horror
a
movie, but it's got
horror
horror
directing.
mistakes by
That's
the
the.
guy Sam Raimi.
I'll give you horror
Yeah,
directing, but it's
the
not
guy
scary.
Sam Raimi directing a movie.
Yeah,
That's
who
what
the
I'm
fuck is
talking
that?
about.
Mid.
We got this cool
Never heard of him in my life.
yeah,
He's a
weird.
talented director, and there are well shot sequences, but the script is terrible, dude. Like Doctor Strange is
I
basically not
agree.
even like. I mean, you don't have it in your top 10, so I'm not going to give you that much shit. But just to complain, not at you, Jake, but at Marvel. Doctor Strange is basically given the least amount of story out of the three main characters of this movie. We get more of Wanda,
It's,
which is again derivative of Wanda. We get more of Wanda and more of America fucking Chavez and her parents. Dude, I don't give a shit. We get a little bit of like whatever Doctor Strange's relationship with Rachel McAdams' character is, and that's fine. This movie, like, think about how good the cameos were. And how much I care about cameos, and the fact that I still fucking don't like this movie, dude. Like, we had
that
John
is crazy.
Krasinski as
That is
fantastic,
crazy.
as Mr. Fantastic. We had Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, which it may be the only time we see him. We certainly didn't see him in Deadpool and Wolverine, which is the big reason why I don't like that movie. It's enough. It's a exercise in futility. Like, nothing happens,
It's
and
my number 20.
he's not even the Sorcerer Supreme. Why is he not the Sorcerer Supreme? I forget which movie changed
Oh,
that.
that
Like,
shit is dumb. No way
it's so
home.
stupid. Like, it's at a point where like
No way
that
home.
movie is so bad that I'm just out of character. I just don't care anymore. Like, and I'm just shitting on the Multiverse of Madness at
Let's
this
move
point.
on though,
But
because it's not in the top 10,
yeah,
so we can save that
yeah.
for awful
Look,
mistakes.
yeah, I like it though. I like
I
it.
say all this to
I'll
say
take it over
where
Deadpool.
the Doctor Strange character went is why it's not a big priority for me in terms of the first one for my top 10. So
Fair enough.
All right, Jake, you can do your number 4.
My number 4. Another Guardians movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. Volume 2 is
Very
not
good
on my
movie.
list. It would be number 12 for me.
thank
But the first
fucking
one's really good.
God. Thank God the second one
Yeah,
is not on
no,
your list. Oh my God.
no. I mean, I really like that movie, but it's got some terrible moments. Some of the worst moments in the MCU. But yeah, like I said, I love James Gunn. I love these characters. I love how he sets it up. The soundtrack we've already talked about. Awesome. The villain is terrible. In this case, I don't really care because the vibe is so good. Plus, you see Thanos really cool. Sets up the Infinity Saga really well. Yeah, and I think it just pulls off an incredibly hard task of getting people to care about these characters. And I think that's just purely down to James Gunn's great character writing that he proves again in Volume 2 a little bit and in Volume 3. And yeah, I just love the vibe and how this movie makes me feel. I think it's such a fun movie, and I really appreciate that in the MCU. So yeah. No more Guardians list movies for me though, Peter.
Thank fucking God, dude. I thought Guardians 2 was going to show up. I would have
That's my
revolted.
number
That movie
22.
sucks.
It's low.
Yeah, it's Guardian. It's
Okay, but
21.
the fact
for
that
me.
you have Deadpool and Wolverine over Volume 2 is
I don't hate that take, dude. I think Guardians 2 is just so bad.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Um,
The bye 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 scene, way worse than the fucking Planet Father scene. Way worse.
what is bad about that scene? I know scene Peter's
okay,
talking about. Those scenes are bad.
We can't
But
talk about it now. We can't. We can't talk about
okay,
it.
okay,
yeah,
okay. I'm gonna show my number 4. I think that's
Yeah,
where
go
we're
ahead.
at, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, okay. It's been on both of your guys' lists, I believe. Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Very,
Um,
I totally am fine with that take.
Yeah, I have it at 4. I fucking love this movie. I haven't seen it in a while. I remember loving this movie. It's a really good Spider-Man movie. It's set in New York City. MJ's there, and it's as much of a coming of age story as it is a superhero movie. I'm not somebody who cares so much about the fact that Iron Man is a part of Peter's life. I know for some people they really hate that.
Oh,
That
wow.
I think it's cool. I really like how it exists in the MCU. That really is very. You can't kind of have it both ways. I think the twist that Michael Keaton is his love interest's dad is crazy. And the first time you watch it, it's extremely effective. You know what I mean? And that's just really good storytelling. It doesn't look like dog shit. I mean, it's not. it doesn't look as good as
I
Goodfellas,
agree.
but it doesn't look bad. It feels like they actually were in New York City with a camera in a way that in No Way Home, I actually not sure if they ever stepped foot in New York City. It's a really interesting choice that Zendaya is not the love interest. I mean, she obviously it's like kind of developed, but the way that they like held that for like future movies and kind of just have her be a part of it was really good. You have both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans show up in this one. It's just, I mean, at the time, the fact that we had a Spider-Man movie set in the MCU was just really awesome if you're a fan. I remember watching this movie, I think with both of you guys. I know Jake was definitely there. I was on a service trip in Alaska the day it came out, so I saw it a little later than it came when it came out. But I really enjoyed it. It's an awesome movie. I think Tom Holland's very good. I love Ned. I love the ending where Aunt May finds out he's Spider-Man. It's just overall like I don't know. I think Peter Parker is a character I identify with. The character I identify the most with in the MCU, probably like a lot of other people. And to me, this is my Spider-Man. This is the one that came out, and I responded to. I was at that age, and the Raimi movies are better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you but Raimi movies are miles ahead of this. You know what I mean? But this was. It feels like a very personal choice. I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah, you guys have talked about it enough, so.
Okay.
Good
That
movie.
was your number four. We were just talking about Pete.
Yep.
Okay, so then we'll go to number three then. Um, I mean, I think you guys. I'm pretty sure you guys know what my top three is already. Um,
I know two of them.
Yeah, I
yeah,
know all of them.
I think you should know all of them at this
Oh,
point.
I do know all of them. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, yes.
So here we
Yeah,
go.
Whoa, that's so
three,
low for you. I mean, it's a good movie.
and
Iron Man.
that's crazy. That's
Um,
crazy. Yeah,
Iron Man being number three. Iron Man was my number one all the way up until I watched the top two, which we know what they are. Um, Iron Man is the best standalone superhero movie ever created. Um, and
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
what are you gonna say,
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Batman?
No. Well, yes, The Dark Knight, or Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 2, Logan. There's far better. I love it, but that's a bad take.
Let me reiterate my statement. It's the best introductory movie for a hero. That's what I
It's
was
a
trying to
very
say.
good origin
Okay,
story.
Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire.
I would still take Spider-Man 1
Bingo.
over it. Like the
Yeah,
Tobey Maguire one.
yeah,
But
wrong. But this movie takes
Batman Begins is better.
it's the Doctor Strange structure, just 1 billion times better. It's a 5-star movie. I wouldn't change a single thing about it. Um, Tony Stark is incredibly charming, very just like a unique character, not something you'd seen. He's like, Captain America comes in as the typical hero, right? Like he pretty much follows that hero path. Tony Stark is such like I don't even know what the word is for it. It's just like different, he'll be egotistical, but he'll put his heart in the right spot when necessary. But he's still like a hero all the time, but like sometimes self-centered, but also like you know what I mean? Like there's so much back and forth. And I just think it's like perfect. Like he speaks and I'm just like W line. W line. Screenwriter deserves a fucking blowjob. He did so well writing. Like he could just go like breathe. Like Tony Stark blinks is written in the script and I'm like, chop it up. Best movie ever. Every cameo he's ever made is fucking awesome. Anytime I saw him show up in a movie, I was just like, this movie's just better now. It's just a better movie. And don't even, I will
That's a
talk
good
about
take. I agree.
I'll talk about his ending in Endgame because I am so incredibly satisfied with how his story concluded. I remember I told Peter and Jake before we watched Endgame that if, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but if Iron Man died, I was like, the movie will be bad. I was like, I'm gonna hate it. Shitty movie if he dies. He shouldn't die. Um, I was wrong. I
So
know.
when I
See,
saw it, I was like, "Oh, and it's cooked."
yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah.
They did it the right way. They made him. I can't talk about it yet, um, but yeah, it's my three because,
Excited.
um,
No, they
I'm
did.
just,
It's coming
bro.
back.
It's Infinity War and Endgame. Like I don't fucking care. I just need to be able to say the movies. Infinity War and Endgame in my mind are just like I just can't put Iron Man above them because of like every single character is in them. Like it's just like they're almost like unfair movies to even rank because of every single character you love is in there and interacting in a way that I think of those two movies as just one movie. Like in my brain, it's just one whole movie. Like Infinity, it's kind of like Star Wars 5 and 6. I think of Star Wars 5 and 6 as just one big movie. Like when 5 ends, it doesn't even feel like an ending. I'm like I'm at the halfway point of the movie. What the hell? It ends abruptly. Infinity War has a much more like shown ending. I think the Star Wars 5 has like a much more abrupt ending, but Infinity Wars is definitely more noticeable, but still, it still feels like a halfway point. It ended on a bad note. And yeah, that's why Iron Man is number three and not number one. If you take those movies out, like if you say, let's rank all of the movies, but none of the group ones, then obviously Iron Man is number one by a fucking mile. Like the gap between Iron Man and Doctor Strange is like this.
Yeah, I mean, I have you seen the Spider-Verse sequel or the first one?
I see the
Yeah,
first
the
one.
sequel. Yeah, the sequel ends mid-sentence where Infinity War has a concluding note, and then there's still story left to tell, which I really appreciate. But I'll
You
get to
actually
that
you talked
later.
to me about this. You said if I didn't like how fucking Star Wars 5 ended, that I would not
Yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah, it's even worse in Spider-Verse movie. As much as I love that movie, it's not a good. It's not a
um,
good conclusion.
yeah, uh, yeah. Is it my turn or
That's
is it?
crazy. I
No,
thought that would
Jake,
be higher. It's my turn. My number
Okay.
three. My number three is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
it's in my top
I've
10.
always been so huge on this movie. I've always been so huge on this movie. I've always loved it, and I really want to rewatch it because I haven't seen it in forever. But I really love what this does with Captain America. Like we've all said, it legitimizes his character, makes him so awesome. The action is awesome. I think that the spy thrillerness of it, it's really intriguing, and really well written. I think Robert Redford is in this movie randomly, which is just hilarious. And I just think that story tells between Cap and Bucky and how it ends, especially, is very emotional. And Nick Fury's great in it. Every character that shows up in this, I love, and they're used really well. So I think it's really cool to make like a standalone movie that brings in characters, but actually makes them matter to the plot and service the story. I think No Way Home does the same. I think that No Way Home is a great example of cameos serving the plot. I think Deadpool and Wolverine is a bad example of cameos not serving the plot. But Captain America: Winter Soldier isn't exactly cameos. I guess those people are part of the world. That's my long-winded way of saying I love the movie, and I think it's really well done for a standalone film. That I have it higher than like things like Endgame. Like you say, it's unfair to rank, kind of. And I understand what you're saying with like putting Infinity War and Endgame together. It's kind of like that in my mind, but for purposes of the list, I have to separate them, and I prefer one much more than the other.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah,
I know you
Winter
like
Soldier is my
Infinity
number
War
four.
more, bro. I know that already.
Yeah.
L.
Uh, uh, my number three is a movie you guys have both already said. Oh, sorry. Did you guys? We're still talking about it?
No, I'm done.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you go ahead.
Uh,
You go.
Captain America: Civil War. I have it much higher than both of you.
Nice.
I'm actually kind of
Way
surprised
higher
that.
than I thought.
Yeah. Well, that's my favorite scene. We've talked about it a bunch, so I'm not gonna belabor it. But my favorite scene in the entire MCU is Peter Parker's introduction. And I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
talking
really
when not in the Spider-Man suit, not when he like jumps onto the car, but when you
Left hand
see
free.
when he's in his apartment with Aunt May and Robert Downey Jr. Dude, like, okay, the song "Left Hand Free" is playing before. I'm not sure, did you just mention that, Jake? Yeah. I mean, I still listen to
I
that
just
song. I
did.
literally was just listening to the song before this because that like it like gives me chills to think about it now. I don't know. I just love that scene so fucking much that like it's. I mean, I also
I
really
agree.
enjoy the movie for all the reasons before. I think it's really well made and stuff like that. Um, but the way it introduces Peter Parker in a very economical way, like you have him, he becomes Spider Man. He's maybe in like 25 minutes of the movie, but I've Tom Holland like totally justifies his casting as Spider Man, and yeah, I really enjoy all it's like basically Avengers 2.5. It's hardly a Captain America movie. I mean, this movie is maybe more important to the Avengers movies than Avengers Age of Ultron. But yeah, I love this movie, love
Totally.
that scene, and I'm actually very surprised it's not higher. I mean, I know it's not. I'm surprised it's not as high on your pick. Really good movie. Really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, I really do love it.
Okay.
Let's go to twos.
Well, what did we just do? Who's did we just do?
You're on number two.
You're
Okay,
on
since we're
you're
gonna do
number two.
end interest because we're almost at an hour 30. I'm gonna have to split this into two parts. This is gonna have to be a
Oh my
two-parter
god.
Okay.
because I know like as the host I'm supposed to be like keeping us on track, but at the same time it's like we have really good thoughts. I can't just be like Jake, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like I can't do it. I feel like I gotta let these
You
thoughts
can
come
if
out.
I'm going on too much about them.
No, no,
So
no. But
yes,
in the
I
interest of
appreciate
time,
that.
let's do this. We're gonna say our number one and two together. Also, because it's just convenient for me to do so as well, given that they're back-to-back movies, um, or like back-to-back connected at least, whatever. But so I'll give my number one and two together, and then that way it'll speed up how we talk about it. So my number two is Infinity War, as I said before. Awesome. And then my number one is Endgame. Endgame became my number one instantly. Didn't even have to think about it. Um, when I was watching the movie, I was like, not sure if this is better than Infinity War just yet. Um, and there's only one thing about Endgame I really need to talk about because I'll say like I loved how the characters interacted. I liked how everything finally started to conclude. I thought the way they brought Ant-Man back was like stupid. Like a rat walked over the controls and that was like that blind luck. I mean, that was a bit
That is
much.
pretty
You
dumb.
know, they could have done something cooler, like they could have been
They
like
really
looking
did
for
not.
him or anything, really. But that's fine, whatever. So I just need to talk about the conclusion of Iron Man and Captain America because it is. Oh, I love how they did it. So awesome. They finally gave not Captain, sorry. They finally gave Iron Man the fucking justice he deserved. Like, he was portrayed for so many movies as like the asshole in just every way in comparison to Captain America, who was portrayed as like God. Just like, oh, look at me, I'm always the morally correct one. Look at me, I'm the symbol of America. Go fuck yourself. That was ridiculous. The guy was not that. He was just pretending, and I hated it. I hated every second of it, and I hated how they somehow were able to manipulate him deciding to not follow the law as putting him in the better position in comparison to Tony Stark, who was like, why don't we just follow the law because so we're not criminals. I digress. They did a full swap of both of their arcs. Tony Stark portrayed as this selfish, arrogant, would never fucking save the world type of guy. Like he's a hero, sure, but he's not the guy that's going to put his actual life on the line when it counts. Total 180. That's exactly what he does. He saves everybody and him alone. His decision in that moment. Doctor Strange said there is one way that they win, which literally means that there is no other person who could have saved everybody. He was the only person who could save everybody. You couldn't say, "Oh, well, if Cap got the stones." Well, guess what? If he got the stones, they lose because every other possible outcome doesn't matter who gets the stones. It has to be Tony Stark, or they lose. He's the only one. So that is also incredible because I love that nobody could argue that anybody else could have done it because it's literally impossible for that to be true. Um, him saying "I am Iron Man," full 180 from the first movie, which I really loved when he says, he's on the fucking press conference thing and, he's got this whole cue cards written up about how he's going to say he's not Iron Man. And then he just says into the mic, like, I'm the Iron Man. Um, and that was just like awesome to bring that back for this and the snap and just everything. I mean, it was so good, man. He was sent off so perfectly. The only send off that I think rivals that is Logan's. Logan's was really good, but Iron Man's was better. And then we have Cap, who also did a 180 and chose the absolute most selfish route possible, which was, oh, I'm young. Tony Stark is dead. I should really be leading the Avengers. You know what? I have the opportunity while I'm returning these stones to just not come back. I can just not come back and I can just stay with and I get it. You're concluding a story. He gets to have his dance. That's sweet. But let's actually think of it realistically. Take the emotional part of that out of it. The guy had a lot left to do for the world. Like, Tony Stark is dead. He needed to be a leader. and he just chose to not come back. You cannot convince me that's not an inherently selfish choice because it 100% is. I know that it's a sweet way to
Yeah, and
wrap
that
up the
makes sense.
story, but
That's good for the character.
it doesn't matter if
You
it's
know.
good for the character. I agree with you, but it makes him selfish. It
Yeah,
actually, and that's why
yeah,
I
it
love it.
services the story well, and that's what I want. Oh, you love
That's
it.
why
You love it.
I love that
Well,
it shows that he's selfish because I wanted him to finally, for
Okay, good.
once, be
Good.
portrayed as anything other than the goody two shoes. I'm right all the time. He finally took that 180 switch, and it's like, no, you know what?
I
This guy
think
does have his own interests at heart at the end of the day, and he showed the world that. So everyone can hop off his dick.
I think the character deserves to make that selfish decision, though. You saying like he's got more to give. This guy's been alive for fucking 100 years, and he's clearly given much to the country by servicing
I think Tony
the
Stark deserved to
Avengers
live.
and in the war.
He didn't. He made
I
a
agree,
sacrifice.
but yeah, yeah, I think Captain America's made sacrifices in his past, and I think that's why he deserves to get his selfish ending.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's a very complex storytelling choice. It's very effective, but I think like, and whether it's right or wrong, I think like Cap's the guy who basically like sacrificed all the time. Like he sacrificed his whole like his reputation in Civil War, his life when he crashed the boat in the first Avenger. Um, he's offered so much to the world. I think that he probably thought to himself like, you know, I deserve this one thing. You know what I mean? Which is just a normal life, and it's self. I mean, you could call it selfish. But I think when you do a lot of selfless acts, I think they balance out. I don't look at him as like he's defined by his selfishness more. That like, I mean,
I agree.
you make a fair point where it's like he probably could have the MCU could have used him as like you know as a leader to keep like shit together in terms of having an Avengers because the Avengers don't exist right now. But you can't blame the guy and yeah, I love that ending. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I also another reason why I really like how it ended is because I feel like Tony Stark's ending was undeniably better. That's all I wanted. I wanted so badly for the way they concluded his character to be better than how they concluded Cap's, and that is what happened. That means something to me because
And
after Civil War, Tony
and
needed a win.
and you would not have felt so good about that Endgame ending if Civil War didn't end the way it did. So I'd say Civil War succeeds in that
Well, I
aspect.
definitely think it contributed because I thought Tony needed a win after that beatdown. He needed
Yeah,
to he
that's
needed
why
something
they do that in
redeeming.
Civil War. Yeah, that's why they do that in Civil War to set the character up for such a selfless sacrifice.
I think I respond more to the
And Infinity War gave me this.
yeah.
Go
I
ahead,
think I
Tom.
respond more to
Cool weapon.
The Captain America ending. That's the one I think about where like especially with that musical cue. But ultimately, the Tony Stark ending, you have to do that because you can't have Robert Downey Jr. alive for the rest of the MCU. You know, he has to die at that point. Um, just because the character's over. Like we got to move on and show new characters. They fucking failed at that. Like I hate most of the movies that have come out since, and ultimately they've completely backtracked and ruined that Robert Downey Jr. ending because he's going to show up again. Um, but at the time, it was really effective because it was like, oh my god, they actually instead of just continuing to show us this guy, they just they put an end to it. It was a big choice.
This is what he did. He snapped. I can't snap with this thing, but
Yeah.
And now he's back.
and now he's back as Doctor Doom. Shitty.
You know, I just saw him perform live like 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah,
Honey,
he's performing in theater right now. He's on at Lincoln Center. He's doing a production of McNeil. I got
you
very
yell
good
at him.
seats. I did not yell at him. I remember
One
seeing
man show.
it wasn't a one man show. Jane from The Office, or Jan, whatever, with some other people. He was good.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
good. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
But
Jake, it's your turn, right?
yeah. I didn't even
So
really
am I
talk
giving my
about
two
Infinity
and my
War.
one?
Yeah. Do
Am
both
I
together.
giving my two and my one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm surprised I have this higher than you, Ant. But my two is Iron Man. I mean, this
Valid as
has to
fuck.
be in your top three, and it is in your top three. But yeah, this is. Should I show my one? We're
Yeah.
talking about Iron Man. My one is Infinity War. I mean, duh. Iron Man was never like one of my like three favorites, but like the more I've thought about it, making this list, I was like, this just has to be in my top three, and I've made it really high because it's really fucking good. It sets up the whole MCU. He's amazing in it. It's a great origin story for the character, and the villain's a little weak, but I love Jeff Bridges, and I think he's funny in that role, even if the villain isn't the greatest, even if the villain is just Iron Man.
Tony Stark built this in a cage.
Yeah, I agree. And then Infinity War is just like the fucking best. This is the only MCU movie that I would put in my like top 10 superhero movie. It's the only one that I look back on with like no flaws, no fun, no like I look back on it, I'm like, yep, I love every aspect of that movie. It's probably like the only 5-star movie in the MCU to me.
That's incorrect.
And it's correct. And
Game is a
because
5-star movie.
it's a character you've been waiting to what? What is?
Endgame's a 5-star movie.
It's close. Not close enough. But yeah, Infinity War, it brings you this character you've been waiting ages to see, and it gives you so much of him. It's his story, which is such a bold choice, but it's such a cool choice. And the ending with him sitting in the farm is just like one of the most like holy shit moments in the MCU. Because after all the snap, and you're like, he's not gonna succeed his goals. He's not gonna achieve. The heroes always win, right? Nope, not in this case. And that's ultimately my favorite part about this movie. It's one of the few superhero movies, especially in the MCU, where the superheroes don't win, and it leaves you in such a dark, place. As someone whose favorite Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back, I mean, I guess it makes sense that this is my favorite one, because it's very similar in that aspect. All the characters are so sick; they do so much. I guess the Hulk representation is a little weak. I don't really like his character that much. But I feel okay about that. But yeah, like Thor, his entrance into Wakanda is awesome. Captain America's so sick with the beard and the long hair. Tony's really awesome fighting Thanos on his own. That conversation they have before or after they fight, where he's like, the world will remember you. So sick. I could go on all day about it.
I'm full circle.
Yeah. Infinity War is awesome.
I have
the exact same top two, Peter.
I have the same top two in the same order. I have Iron Man at 2. I'm shocked. I am shocked that Jake has this higher than you, Ant. I'm shocked that it's not top 2 for you, Ant. Jake, I'm shocked it got so high for you. I could have sworn you would have had like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie higher. I'll show the posters again, I guess, if that's what we're looking for.
Guys, I just can't get it for it. You got to think about it too. Think about what's my favorite Star Wars movie?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, true.
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith?
Star Wars 6, bro.
Return of the Jedi is your
Return of the Jedi is your favorite?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. No, I'm fucking... No, it's not. No, it's not.
Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Valid choice.
Right? That's Star Wars 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
the one
that's my
where
favorite. That's my favorite. Yeah. Sorry. Star Wars 6 is my second favorite.
That's my second
favorite. But yeah, Iron Man, it's an amazing movie. It obviously stands alone because at the time, literally nothing else existed in the universe.
Probably my top 10 movies.
Robert Downey Jr. I mean, it was in my top 100 at one point. Not anymore, but
it's not in my top 100 either, even though it's 2 on this list.
It's amazing. Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, the amount of charisma he has is palpable. I mean, he's just flying. Everything he does is like the most interesting choice you've seen an actor make. He's just undeniably charismatic. I think it has the best VFX maybe throughout the entire franchise for me, which is so infuriating because we all know like the technology has advanced. So there's just like, what are we doing? Like, why can't Iron Man's suit look as sick as it does in this first movie? It looks fucking terrible in Endgame and Infinity War. It looks so bad. I don't believe any of it's real. It looks like shit. Yeah, I mean, Thanos looks great in that movie, so that's awesome. But like the way when he's walking away from the explosion and it's behind him, that's what Iron Man is to me. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like to have sat in the theater and maybe I wasn't a comics reader really, but I knew all these characters from cartoons and stuff like that. So I definitely knew who Nick Fury was pretty early on in my life, but I can't imagine sitting in the theater and having that scene happen. Like, holy fucking shit, they're gonna keep going with this. Like, the whole MCU. Although it's like, as we know, it's probably built upon Avengers. Like, I'm not sure if like Iron Man, like any Captain America, Thor movies get green lit if it's successful as it is. Um, there's a lot. I part of the reason I hate Deadpool and Wolverine is because it's like I talked about this in our group chat a little bit about how like it's like trying to be all punk and stuff like that, but it's like the most popular movie of the year. It's like $1 billion franchise and stuff like that. But this Iron Man movie, you talked about the screenwriter of this movie doing really well, and they wrote this movie in the trailer on the day of the set. It was Robert Downey Jr., Jon Favreau, Jeff Bridges, who plays the villain in this movie, basically said the production was so unprofessional. It was like making a student film. Like they were improvising, and like this was $100 million movie, and like the franchise Marvel was gonna go bankrupt if this movie did not succeed. Like they put all their chips in for this movie to succeed. They put all their chips on Robert Downey Jr., who obviously had a complicated, in terms of like the press and stuff like that, and it paid off so well. It's probably the most one of the most expensive independent productions of all time. It's a really fucking good movie. I actually think I would have probably walked out of the theater and not even seen the end credit scene because the audience was so unprepared for that. It invented the end credit scene, which is like, to me, still my favorite part of watching these movies because there's always the chance that you're going to have something really cool happen in that. When he's in the car and the guy puts up like a peace sign, he's like, "No gang signs," and then he's like, "Throw him up. Who cares?" Like it's just really good. You said it's the best origin story. I completely agree. At least in the MCU. I mean, the first Spider-Man movie, yeah. Raimi's probably better, but most origin stories are really. I actually hate them. I'm like, dude, I know who Doctor Strange is. I don't want to watch a whole movie about how he becomes Doctor Strange. But the reason Iron Man works so well is because although the Iron Man character is not like he hasn't become Iron Man at the beginning of the movie, the person Tony Stark is fully realized the first time we see him on screen. He's got everything he has at that moment, and so you're willing to go along with the ride with that character as he becomes a superhero. Totally. I think that's all I had to say about it. The only thing, I guess I'll move on to Infinity War in the interest of time because we're going over and stuff like that. Yeah, Infinity War is my number one.
We're almost
easily. Yeah, you have 2 episodes now, which is good, I guess.
Yeah, I do.
Avengers: Infinity War, I think it's actually a staggering artistic achievement, which is not like
it really is.
It's really, really incredible how good this movie is. Like from top to bottom. Like it's easy to nitpick, but like I can't imagine how difficult it would have been to have gotten all these characters into the movie and do most of them justice, while also making Thanos really. It's a Thanos movie. It's a movie about Thanos. He is the protagonist, and it's amazing. I love how dark it is. I mean, obviously they have to like eventually make it not so dark in the sequel, but I agree with Jake. I love Empire Strikes Back. I love when things get like. It's not the victory that you're supposed to get. And I think this is the only movie, the entire MCU, that has an ending where the heroes aren't on top. And I love it for that. I mean, it was so shocking. The snap is really shocking. For me, one of the coolest cameos in the history that happens in me and Jake is when Red Skull shows up.
Ever.
Yeah, when Red Skull shows up in that movie, me and Jake did the similar thing that you said we did for Far From Home. You weren't there because you were Marvel at this point, but we freaked the fuck out. Like we were like, holy fucking shit, because we did not know where Red Skull had went. He didn't die. He got beamed away. When me and Jake went to see this movie, I think we got off at school. We probably got home from school at 4. The movie started at 7. I think we immediately went to the theater, like 3 hours before. We liked sitting at the very bottom, the very back row. We sat there like 2 hours before it got. We were just in. We were so excited for it, and yeah, the ending with the score when it's like that stuff's really fucking good. Thanos is probably the best villain in like. Not in terms of acting performance, but like in terms of like popular movies that like everybody has seen, probably since Heath Ledger, I think. There's a lot of indie movies I could talk about, and but that's not as relevant here. I think it's really interesting that Spider-Man, Iron Man, who are all great characters, all of some of our favorite characters, are all in the same team. That's a choice I really love in this movie. Yeah, I mean it's just crazy. I have that poster in my room, and it's like there's 25 fucking names at the top. You know what I mean? Because there's so. It's like Don Cheadle is like basically like irrelevant to this movie, and he's like he could be the star of his own movie, Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
it's crazy.
but the only my only regret with this movie is watching it so many times before Endgame came out that like I it's just very hard to like watch it because it's like I know it so well. Like nothing could surprise me. I know it like the back of my hand. Um, but yeah, this movie just cemented the MCU, the most important uh phenomenons in the history of movies. I mean, for better and for worse, obviously. But truly, it was like nothing we've seen before. I don't think we will see anything like just scale. You know?
It's also it's also got one of the best trailers ever made.
Yeah.
Like that first trailer is unreal. Oh my god! And the opening with no Marvel fanfare, so good too. There's just so
Yeah.
many great little choices in this that make it a fucking real. It's an event, it's an experience like Endgame, but it's also a fucking real movie.
What's crazy about this with Endgame too is that the Thanos we see in it, he died like satisfied. Like he died accomplishing what he set out
Happy,
to
yeah.
accomplish. You know what I mean? And that's like just a really bold choice that I think Marvel didn't have to do because it's very easy to take for granted that they did this dark Empire Strikes Back like situation, but they didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? They really didn't have to do that, and they did, and I really respect them.
And I need to rewatch your whole Civil War rant. It's not even on my top 10.
Before we forget, do you guys want to say our lists from bottom to top?
Yeah. And so we share seven of we share seven. There's seven overlaps on my list.
There's six of mine. We
Mine
have
is
six. We have six.
yeah. So mine is Spider-Man. No, yeah. There's a lot of overlap here. Like there's obviously some personal favorites, but it's yeah, it is crazy how much it. My 10 is Spider-Man: No Way Home. My 9 is Thor: Ragnarok. My 8 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. My 7 is Captain America: Civil War. My 6 is Avengers: Endgame. My 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. My 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy. My 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. My 2 is Iron Man, and my number 1 is Avengers: Infinity.
Yeah, we have eight of the same, Jake. Not especially surprising. You have Guardians 2 and no, you have Guardians 3 and Ragnarok.
Thor: Ragnarok.
And I have Ant-Man and Black Panther. Yeah. But yeah, I'll say my list. At 10, I have Ant-Man. At 9, I have Galaxy. At 8, I have Black Panther. At 7, I have Captain America, The Winter Soldier. At 6, I have Spider-Man No Way Home. At 5, I have Avengers Endgame. At 4, I have Spider-Man Homecoming. 3, I have Captain America Civil War. At 2, I have Iron Man. At 1, I have Avengers Infinity War.
Nice.
Yeah, probably. I don't think.
That is correct. That is correct.
Which?
You have every Spider-Man movie?
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's really good.
Would you guys be interested in hearing my top 10 as it was in 2021? Because I found an old list I made.
Yeah.
Let me do this. So yeah, things have definitely fucking changed. Okay, in 20. So this is a note. This is in my notes app from July 11th, 2021 at 5:57 p.m., which I believe is when I was stepping into your car after we had seen Black Widow. And okay, that I have Spider-Man: Homecoming at 10, Avengers: Age of Ultron at 9, Guardians of the Galaxy at 8, Captain America: Civil War at 7, Spider-Man: Far From Home at 6, Thor: Ragnarok at 5, Iron Man at 4. Yeah, Iron Man at 4, Captain America: The Winter Soldier at 3, Infinity War at 2, and Endgame at 1. I don't think any movie is in the exact same place it was last time. I think they've literally all changed a spot.
Yeah.
What is that? Oh, okay.
Wow, very nice. Yeah, yeah. I want to hear your guys' least favorite one. If we have time to just mention the least favorite. 2 episodes. No,
Mine's not. That's not my least favorite either.
mine is Thor:
Um,
Love and Thunder.
Mine's the original Thor. The original Thor. The reason I despise it so much is it's actually one of my least favorite movies of all time. It's because every time, like I have rewatched the MCU from beginning to end at least 3 or 4 times because I was like watching it with different people. Like I watched it with my dad, I watched it by myself and stuff like that. Um, Thor was always the most boring fucking movie I've ever watched. Like it's not even like terrible. It's like kind of fine, I guess. It's just so like nothing, like literally nothing happens. Like it's this weird
It's very boring.
fantasy Shakespearean. It's like I'd rather fucking nails on a. It's like nails on a chalkboard. Like I just it's so boring. I
It,
hate it.
it's very bad.
Also,
That's
the
like a
whole
one
movie
star
is shot
movie
in
for
the.
me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's like a 1 star movie for me. Love and Thunder is like a half star. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like apples and oranges. That's also a 1 star movie. That movie is really bad. The Guardians are in it. Yeah, says a lot. Comedy movie. Comedy movie. I have no more MCU thoughts, but it's good because I haven't talked about it like those older movies at least. So
Have us back on for like a shitting on Marvel episode because there's a whole episode in this.
please. Yeah. The Marvel. Yeah, yeah. That's a good call.
This stuff.
Kratos and Joel, I agree with. Mr. Goodwill.
Yeah, his name is good. First name good, middle name
Will, comma D.
Nice. I like it.
What about Robert? Yeah, come to put your kids to bed.